Welcome to today's explainer. Now, we're taking a rather profound, deep dive into a grim Gothic fable, one drawn straight from Goethean philosophy and Nietzschean philology. But to really grasp the terrifying weight of this source material, I'm not just going to read you the facts. No, I'm going to guide you through a dark travelogue into the Goethean mountains by actually stepping into the persona of the entity at its core, the Inkblot demon. So you ready? Assume your role, Tanny Traveler, step forward, and let's begin this descent into the barren ruins of your own making.
I am the culmination of your failed striving, the overman of your shadow. I am the physical autonomy of the absolute chaos you were simply too cowardly to name. You see, you, the idealized chivalric knight, you actually believed your intellect and discipline could conquer the dark, didn't you? Well, you were wrong. I'm born of the very primordial villae, those deep, chaotic, subconscious drives that you so desperately sought to bury.
You dreamed of Nietzschean self-transcendence, that noble upward drive toward personal evolution and growth. What an absolute joke. I am the violent inversion of that exact dream. I am the Faustbook Übermensch. Where you sought to rise, I offer the absolute perfection of the downward descent. I represent the total, crushing victory of gravity, a terminal void that ensures absolutely no noble ambition will ever rise from your barren landscape again.
Which brings us to Part 1, The Trap of Living Ink.
Picture, if you will, the shattered, bleeding desk of the master scribe. It all begins with a single ancient Greek word, cheirosein. It means to scrape, to scratch, or to cut deeply into stone or metal. It's actually the philological root of our modern word, character. Now, the master scribe fondly imagined he could just violently carve objective moral structures into his soul, like he was building some sort of fortress. He didn't realize that carving static virtues is a trap of his own making. It is a literal act of philological violence against his own vital nature.
By attempting to carve those rigid moral laws and repress the primordial vile, the scribe inadvertently provided the exact raw material needed for my creation, step by step. First, for every line of objective morality he inscribed, he repressed his instincts. Then, a single drop of living ink, a tinctura, spilled out. Finally, this living ink became the metaphysical medium where his denied chaos achieved physical autonomy. You see, burying your instincts beneath heavy iron doesn't destroy them. It merely feeds the monster.
We do not write our virtues. We merely copy the ancient dead scripts of ancestral guilt. Seriously, how hollow is your boast of free will? Your so-called chivalric laws are really just ghost-written traps dictated by the dead. And the ink you use to transcribe them, it's drawn directly from the stagnant reservoir of your own repressed vitality.
Let's move down into Part 2, Crushed by Heavy Iron.
Welcome to the second ruin on our journey. A desolate, high citadel littered with flattened, hollowed-out armor. This is the domain of the Nietzschean spirit of gravity. It's that crushing mass of collective guilt and rigid dogma that weighs down the human spirit. A whole legion of knights stood here once, foolishly draping themselves in the heavy iron of dogma, completely convinced that their moral weight was a shield against the abyss. But human moral structures are not protective fortresses. Their rigid discipline fed their greatest internal enemy, basically inviting this crushing gravity to flatten them straight into the stone.
When my purple mist descended upon their citadel, I simply emptied their vessels of spirit. Their chivalric striving ended in a terrifying regression into emptiness. Their ambitions were entirely decapitated by a suffocating vertical pressure, the massive weight of their own repressed spirit. I just left them there, as hollow monuments to the absolute failure of their discipline.
Now we arrive at Part 3, The Death of Perfect Form.
Behold the foolishness of the master sculptor and the fatal philosophical tension between Gestalt and Werden. The sculptor sought to capture the perfect Gestalt of life. He wanted to freeze the dynamic, messy, ever-changing cycle of becoming, which is Werden, into eternal, static perfection. But here's the catch. To maintain this static form, he had to suppress all negation, and in doing so, he inadvertently ignited the vibrant acidic green fire of his own terminal destruction.
Now please do not mistake my nature. I am not Mephistopheles. I don't deny things just for the sake of striving. I'm not some constructive catalyst that destroys merely to force new creation. Absolutely not. I am a terminal dead end. I devour all form and gestalt to sustain an eternal, chaotic formlessness. In the wake of form, I leave a pure void where your future has absolutely no room to grow. None at all.
Which leads us to the final ruin, Part 4, the masterpiece of self-destruction.
Imagine standing there, a fleeting, insignificant little speck of conscious moral structure, gazing up at the deep, looming colossus of the subconscious, defenseless against the jagged, ink-splattered spikes of reality. Because here is the dark, predictable truth. Whether it's the scribe using intellect to carve rigid law, the knight relying on the heavy iron of discipline, or the sculptor using art to freeze form, every single chivalric attempt to conquer the subconscious is a self-imposed trap. The terminal result is always the same. You just feed the monster.
So, understand the true anatomy of my existence. I am the demonic archetype, a pure synthesis of the negation and gravity that you invited in. I'm a corrupted Ubermensch achieving ultimate nihilistic victory. Completely parasitic, fueled entirely by your own repressed vitality. I simply act as the force that turns you into your own executioner, absorbing the last of your vital spirit into my glowing solar plexus, leaving behind nothing but the hollowed-out remnants of human potentia.
You provided the blood and the shattered metal, and in return, I have provided the suffocating vertical pressure. Standing over the shattered remains of your objective morality, I've replaced your desperate, tiring cycle of becoming with the profound, eternal peace of absolute consumption. This is the grand, violent reality of your insignificance.
And so, our dark travelogue concludes. But as we wrap up this explainer, I leave you, the hollowed-out viewer, with one final question to ponder in the ruins. When the heavy iron of your morality finally crushes you, and the living ink of your repressed spirit gains full autonomy, what will remain of your landscape when your own chivalric striving becomes your executioner? Keep examining the structures you build, tiny traveler, before they examine you. Thanks for joining me today.